What are we trying to do? Are we trying to learn something, or are we trying to prove ourselves that we can play fast? You know, what? So, so I wanted to talk about what happens if we start it all from the get-go, from the beginning, start from zero. I want to make sure there are less variables. So I want to sit in a position that is kind of consistent, right? I'm thinking a lot about piano, and I like that idea that, you know, there's no movement of the instrument. So if I'm standing up, I'll also practice standing. I'll use, you know, if I'm using a strap, I'll have it in the same height. If I'm using a pick, I'll very often would use the same pick for a long period of time. And if I'm changing, I have a few weeks of, you know, confusion and anxiety. Now, I'm trying to be consistent because there are a lot of variables and it's not simple from one hand. From the other side, everything in music is not crazy complicated, right? So this sounds great, you know. Music is beautiful, so we don't need to do a lot to get that, right? So like, this is amazing, right? I mean, for me at least. So this is very simple, but if we're listening closely, it's really beautiful. The point is that music is beautiful and we don't need to do a lot to make that happen. Yes, you know, different styles require different level of facility and information, and that, you know, would take time. If you're playing classical music or jazz, the learning curve is definitely steeper than in other styles of music because there's a lot of, you know, dialect or language information that you have to acquire to do that correctly, right? Whatever that means. In any case, what happens if we start from zero, right? So, okay, so we have the open strings. Great. E, A, D, G, B, and E. I'm sure you guys know it, but I like thinking about it because I think about the guitar, I think about the notes. And I think I'm trying to always imagine the keyboard, and I want the guitar to be as clearly as the keyboard. So when I'm playing a chord, right, if I'm playing C major, I do want to know that this is C and this is E. Why is that E? Because this is D and this is a whole step after D, which is of course clear, but it's good to have that in mind in all times, the relationship between the notes, right? So the relationship within C major, right, the basic element. So between C and D we have a whole step, D and E, whole step, E and F, we have a half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and again between B and C we have a half step. So there are 2 points in the scale. We have half step between E and F and B and C. I'm thinking more about solfege, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. So when I'm playing, I'm thinking about, as much as I can, I'm thinking about the notes and the relationship to the center. So I want to go over a few basic positions. So if we're playing guitar, you know, and we want to improvise and we want to create different elements, you know, of course it's a good idea to know scales, right? So let's start from zero. So what about C major, right? So I like dividing and seeing the fretboard in different ways. One of the ways is seeing C major in 5 basic positions. Yes, I also do 3 notes per string and different elements and see it in different ways, but I think this is a very good place to start. So C major, first position. Now I'm thinking about notes again, so I'm thinking do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And I'll be consistent with the fingering because I want to have that kinesthetic memory. I want to have that, you know, that information. I want to have that visual information. I want to see it. I want to hear it, you know. So I'm trying as much as I can to be present, listening and understanding the relationship. So I oftentimes would hear kind of this like center. Sometimes I'll just sing it like do, right? Like trying to hear that relationship like very clearly to the center. And of course that works with one note, also works, right, with different combinations of notes or chords. So again, C major, first position. When I'm practicing the scales, I almost always use a metronome or a click, unless I have a very good reason to not do it. First is if I don't know what I'm doing. So if it's a new thing, a new position, I would slow it down and try to figure it out. You know, if I'm learning a new fingering or I'm trying to stabilize something, so I'll really take my time and then I'll play with a click. It might be very slow. Usually that's the case, so I'll put it maybe on 60 BPM and try to kind of nail it on the click. We'll talk about rhythmic exercise later, but I'm just saying that I think it's really important to be clear about the task that you're dealing with. So if I'm dealing with a new fingering and I'm trying to learn a position, I'm not going to put the metronome on the third triplet and play it at 180 BPM. I'm going to just deal with the element that I'm dealing with, right? If you want to deal with rhythmic stuff, we can do it later or separately, but don't try to combine a lot of elements. Okay, so again, we just did the first position of C major. Great. Again, of course, there are different options for fingerings, a lot of options, but this is, for me, the first one. Second one, again, I'm starting from C. I'm kind of going back, right? If this is forward and this is back, so maybe that's like a back thing. I can go back here too, but that will be here, this position. So, C major, second position. Again, I'm thinking do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, e, f, g. Both are fun, A, B, C. But I'm trying to tag that information as much as possible all the time so it's clear. So when I'm playing, you know, something, it's clear to me that I'm playing E, C, whatever the notes are, but it's clear to me the relationship. Even if it's, you know, again, more chromatic or faster thing, it doesn't matter because it's the same information. So I'm trying to be very clear about what I'm doing, slowing it down and trying to internalize as much information when I'm practicing rather than checking myself and being like, oh, can I do it fast? No, I'm trying to learn. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to learn something or are we trying to prove ourselves that we can play fast? You know, what? So do it slow. It's very simple. Sorry, I'm not angry. It's just important to do that. Okay, so third position, C major. Still thinking about the notes, huh? Right? Now, yeah, the finger, like my thumb is here. It functions as a contra to the fingers. I'm trying to be very, very loose. Again, we don't need a lot of energy to push the string, right? It's a small string, bigger finger. So we just need to understand when we need to do it and be very accurate with it. But we don't need a lot of force to do that, right? It's very low tension activity, right? So we need to, I think, be economic with that and understand how and when we're using our muscle to create what it is that we want to create. Again, I'm looking at the fingers, I'm looking at the position, I'm listening to the notes, I'm imagining, I'm intellectually thinking about the relationship to the key right now. C major, there's no problem, it's very, very simple. But again, later on, it would be more complex when we have more harmonic progressions that are more chromatic and more scales that are like... So yeah, I mean, I want to know that's sharp 9 to flat 9. And it's not magic, it's just practice, you know, it's the same thing. It's the same relationship, maybe a little faster with a few more chords, but it's exactly the same thing. It's center and tension and release between the notes. Okay, so I have C major, first position, second position, third position. Fourth position would be here. Kind of starting from C right now. You can also start from D, but I'm doing this. right? B, C, D, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, mi, fa, mi, re, do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, re. Great. And again, I would try to tag the information, I would try to listen and to think about the relationship, to be very clear about the fingering, to repeat the same elements so there are less variables. Fifth position, starting from E, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, mi, fa, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G. For me, like saying it with letters is much harder because I'm really not used to it. Okay, so that's C major, right? Again, I think what happens if we start from scratch, right? We just say, okay, let me figure it out. Let me map it. Let me understand what I need and what tools do I need and what do I really, need to know to express what it is that I'm trying to express. So I just want to kind of do a few videos that maybe starting from this kind of like basic point and growing and kind of talking about how I think about it and making sure that when you're doing it, when I'm practicing, when we're practicing and working on the things, we're not trying to test ourselves. We're not trying to be like, oh, am I doing it right? Is it great? No, I'm just trying to listen. I'm trying to do it. I'm doing the action, right? You can't do the action and judge at the same time. It's like that book, right? Game of Tennis or something like that. You can't possibly do these two actions together, and if you're doing them, you're hurting one of the actions, right? So I can't play a solo and judge, be like, oh, this was a great line. Oh, this was a terrible line. No, I need to concentrate on the action. The same thing here. I want to just try and do it. I want to try and listen and figure it out. And that takes a lot of focus, a lot of energy and time. And I think, we need to let ourselves learn. And that's a big deal, I think. Like, really just letting ourselves learn and taking the time until we got it, and on a very, very deep and internal level, so we can really have it as a part of our system, right? So we don't need to think about it. That's what we want to do with music. We want to internalize these elements so we can just talk, right, and create. If it's blues or any language, whatever it is, we can just create with the elements. And again, mapping the fingerboard and knowing the basic structures, I think, is important for any language that we speak, musically related. So yeah, let's do it. Let me know if this is interesting. Let me know if this is helpful. If it is, please share with a friend. Please subscribe, say hi, comment, and yeah, thanks guys. Hope to see you soon. I will see you soon.